Hello, everybody. Welcome to Church at Home with Rachel for Friday, the 8th of December. Glad you're with me. It is Feel Good Friday. So today I thought I'd talk about a little bit about being thankful, being grateful. I forget my pages here. So this particular passage, this little devotion is taken from Soul Fuel. You can see it by Bear Grylls. And it's something I flagged a long time ago. But it's called Be Thankful. And I'm going to share this with you here. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18. And then Bear says this. This verse is interesting and challenging because it isn't what we first think of when the worst happens. Our default all too often can be to fall down and give up when things go badly wrong. But God has a better, smarter way. He says for us to be grateful in all circumstances. Instead of blaming and wailing, give thanks to God for all the good in your life. That's radical living. At its most basic, that good is the truth that we are loved by God and given a future with Him for eternity. That in itself is crazy good news. When it comes to living life on earth with power and purpose, it is scientifically proven that gratitude changes our state for the better. So let's make this a daily attitude and way to live, always in gratitude for our blessings, whether it be food, health, fortune, relationships, fun, family, or simply His promises for our futures. Paul knew all about this too. Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. That's taken from Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. In other words, look for the positive and choose to be grateful. He was right. When we look around us and focus on all that is good, it helps us to see that God in so many of the little things that we often overlook, whether it be the leap of a dog in delight at seeing us or the smiling kindness of someone serving us coffee. Christ is in it all. When we live like this, it is as though our eyes are being opened, and it starts with gratitude. I think I needed that reminder. Last night, Rob and I had some running around to do. The Padres on the base do this incredible thing for Christmas. They do like a Padre fund. And for families who might find it difficult, and I know many of you will understand that this year, they collect money for the Christmas. Basically, it's called Christmas hampers, but there's no hampers involved. They use gift cards and allow the families then the dignity of using those gift cards to go out and buy the Christmas dinner or the Christmas present for the kids, things like that. But one thing that we've discovered, I don't know if this happens in the States, but here in Alberta anyway, you can only buy a certain number of gift cards, and you have to pay cash, which makes it interesting because in the military, there's, they want you to pay ahead and then pay you back for things, even though you raise the money for it. So Rob has a negotiation with NPF, non-public funds, every year. He takes the money in, and they begrudgingly give it back to him. He signs it back to him. He has to go buy these gift certificates, gift cards. But a lot of the stores, Walmart, the co-op store, the grocery store, things like that, will only let you buy a number of them, and he needs to buy a whole lot of them. So we took a drive to the co-op store in Vermilion yesterday evening, and then we went for dinner. And on the way, it was dark, of course. By the time we left, it was probably about 4:30, and it was getting pretty dark. And it was pitch black by the time we came home at 6:30. And part of the time we were talking about how great it is, this new adventure for me to be moving to Brandon. But we also talked about some of the difficulties. Rob, there's no guarantee that Rob will be posted to Shiloh, which is near Brandon, come the summer. So it guaranteed we will be apart from March through till the middle of July. But there's also a possibility that we might be apart longer than that. We could really be apart for another 5 years if Rob never gets posted to Shiloh. So you obviously know what I'm praying for. But we were struggling with that. How do we do this? And how frustrating this is that we can't just call our own shots. And how are we going to maintain our relationship? And how do we feel like who we're called to be as a couple if we're living apart? And so for a little while there, especially in the dark, and cars driving at us with their high beams on the way to Vermilion, we were getting pretty heavy, and we weren't feeling very grateful. But as we were eating our supper and having picked up our gift cards, feeling very much like we'd done some kind of drug deal, I took $500 and he took $500. We went to separate clerks, and we asked for 5 $100 gift cards, and acting like we were doing something nefarious. All we were doing is buying gift cards to give families who need them at Christmas. But it felt very much like we were doing something wrong. I think that made us kind of shake our heads and have a good giggle as we went for dinner. And then I realized we were thinking the wrong thoughts. Instead of being grateful and thankful that God has called me to move on to a new ministry, and recognizing that God doesn't call us away from something and to allow everything else to fall into peril. God doesn't say, "I want you to bless you with this blessing," but if you receive this blessing, you have to lose 3 or 4 blessings over here. God is not some kind of a nefarious talk show host saying, you can choose behind door A, but you're going to lose what's behind door B and door C. Your friends and family will go down the chute into Hades, and you get to have this over here. God doesn't work that way. God is saying, I'm calling you to a new position. I'm calling you to a new ministry. God is not saying, if you say yes to this particular endeavor, if you say yes to this mission, I'm going to strip away everything else that's good in your life, and your life it'll be hell. That doesn't work that way. God is not trying to punish me for doing what God has called me to do. And so having to sort of reframe my thinking and realize that if God is in any of it, God is in all of it. And Rob and I talked about that he was there and God was absolutely in the election. God is in the call for me to move to Brandon, Manitoba. And if God is in that, then God is in all of it. That doesn't guarantee that Rob will also move to Manitoba. But what it does guarantee is that God will give us the strength or the gifts or the resources we need to do what God is calling us to do. And so when I sat down to record this, I got thinking about that conversation we had in the truck in the dark, and realizing that on our way home, we weren't being so gloomy. We were thinking on beautiful things. The farms that have incredible Christmas lights up. There's one farm, the whole barn, the house, the fences, everything are incredible Christmas lights. And right in the middle of it is this massive nativity set. And it's not lit up with Christmas lights. It simply has floodlights on it. So instead of looking kind of garish and gaudy and secular Christmas, it looks like a Christian Christmas scene. And it makes our hearts sing. And I get to see that every time I drive to Vermilion and back. And so it's a beautiful thing. We need to focus on those good things. We need to rejoice in all things. Again, I will say rejoice. God is not asking us, any of us, to suffer through something so that the blessings we have will be that much better. God is asking us to recognize the blessings we already have. And I keep thinking, there's a friend, someone who's very dear to me who watches these videos, who has a cat. I am not a cat person, but he is a cat person. And he has a fluffy cat who consistently lays on his keyboard. And he posts pictures of these on the Facebook. And the fact is that every time I see pictures of this cat laying on the Facebook, or seeing this person post and say something about the cat, it makes me laugh, because I know that in that moment, my friend was happy, was finding something to rejoice about, even if it was having to lift the heavy cat off the keyboard yet again. He loves that cat. We all have something. Even in our most difficult days, we all have something that is beautiful and good that we can focus on. And I know from personal experience, from seasons of this in my life, when it took every ounce of energy I had to be able to open my eyes and acknowledge something good in front of me. There was a season in my life that went on for probably about 6 months, I remember, when the only thing that, I get up and go to work early in the morning and work all day and come home, and the only thing that I could give thanks for was the novel that was sitting on my coffee table that I would pick up after I'd had my dinner and done my dishes and made sure I was ready for tomorrow. And I could read for 2 or 3 or 4 hours and completely be immersed in a fictionalized world where everything was beautiful, or a mystery, or whatever the novels were, because it was a lot of books over a lot of time. Because that couple of hours where I could not have to think about the world was where I found peace. It was where I found joy. It was where I found those moments when I could rejoice. Ideally, I would have been able to set the book down and then be able to look around me and see other things that made me rejoice. The people out who were looking out for me, my family calling me on the phone, coming to visit, things like that. In that season, though, all I could see that was helpful, all I could see I could rejoice in was those books. And that's okay. It's okay. If you're in a season right now in your life where everything is awesome, everything's lollipops and puppy dogs and kitty cats, then that's great. And I hope you enjoy that. Journal about it. Keep it uh, video log it so that you can have those moments when later in life you find you're in a difficult place. You can reach out for those things and read them or watch them and remember, yeah, that's what it was like to feel great. But if you're going through, especially pre-Christmas, if you're going through some time where you're thinking, Rachel, I don't know if I've got anything to be rejoice about, look around and find one little thing, whether it's your cat or a cup of coffee that you plan to have, or maybe you're a coffee aficionado and you're going to go down to that little coffee place on the side street that does up that Americano latte, half chocolate, half mocha, vanilla, decaf calf thing that you love to have, that you pay through the nose for, and that's your treat. If that's what it takes for you to have a moment of joy, then go for it and savor it and rejoice in it and think about it, because if you hang on to the feelings you have in that moment, if you hang on to the gratitude that you have as you're savoring that hot or cold or whatever kind of drink that is, or whatever it is in your life that you have that you can hang on to, if you can have that and allow it to grow in your heart, it will happen, that growth that'll happen, it'll get bigger and bigger. And you'll begin to see there's more things in life to be happy about. And eventually, you'll get into a season in your life where if somebody says to you, rejoice, instead of saying, what do I have to rejoice about? You'll have rejoice. Of course I can rejoice. I have this and this, and I got great friends, a good job, and a blah, blah, blah. And you'll realize you're in a good place. So wherever you are right now, whether you're in that awesome place where everything's incredibly great, or you're in that place where, like, I'm not really sure how I'm going to get through today, think about one thing that brings you joy or peace or hope or love, and focus on that one thing for a little while. And then tomorrow, focus for a little bit longer and keep focusing until you're able to put that in your mind's eye, that it will eclipse everything else that seems to be overwhelming you when things get bad. And I promise you that if you can focus on the good, even just for a little while, with practice, it will get easier until you realize that you really do focus on the good all the time. I hope that this weekend brings you lots of good, lots of things to rejoice in. And I pray that you will have a beautiful, gentle weekend. Unless, of course, you really want a raucous, rowdy weekend, and then have that by all means. But I do pray that you will have a gentle, whatever fills your soul. Have a weekend that fills your soul. And I hope to see you on Gospel on the Go on the other channel on Sunday, or at Church at Home with Rachel on Monday again. Have a great weekend, everybody. God bless you. And please know that you are part of what brings me joy. So thank you for being a great part of my life. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.